December in Seattle didn't just bring cold. It brought the kind of bone-deep chill that turned rain into tiny needles of ice. The kind that found every hole in worn-out jackets and reminded you exactly how far you'd fallen. Naomi Chen sat on the wet pavement outside Pike Place Market, her 5-year-old son Marcus pressed against her side, and wondered how many more days she could survive this. Not physically, though God knew her body was giving out, but mentally, spiritually. The part of her that remembered being someone other than the invisible woman with the cardboard sign. The sign itself was a study in desperate dignity. She'd written it carefully on the back of a flattened Amazon box. Single mom. Anything helps. God bless. No sob story. No dramatic plea. Just facts presented with the kind of restraint that came from an MBA and 3 years in nonprofit management, back when she'd been Naomi Richards, back when her biggest problem was dealing with difficult donors, not begging them for spare change. That life felt like it belonged to someone else now. Mama, Marcus whispered, his small body shivering despite the 3 layers of clothing she'd wrapped him in. My chest feels tight. Naomi's heart seized with a fear that had become her constant companion. Marcus's asthma. The inhaler that had been empty for 3 weeks because she couldn't afford the $37 copay. The free clinic that was always full. The emergency room that would treat him but send bills she'd never be able to pay. Just breathe slow, baby. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Like we practiced. Marcus tried, but Naomi could hear the wheeze building in his chest. That rattling sound that meant his airways were constricting, that meant they were running out of time. Around them, the market buzzed with evening activity. Tourists taking photos of the famous fish-throwing vendors. Local shoppers loading bags with fresh produce and artisan bread. Young couples laughing over craft beer and oysters. All of them carefully not seeing the woman and child slowly freezing on the sidewalk. Naomi had learned that invisibility was a choice people made. They saw her, they had to, she was right there, but their eyes would slide past, focusing on anything else. Because acknowledging her meant acknowledging that the distance between their warm apartments and her cold pavement wasn't as vast as they wanted to believe. She didn't blame them anymore. She'd probably done the same thing once. A businessman in an expensive overcoat walked past, close enough that Naomi could smell his cologne. She'd made eye contact, saw his face register her presence, then watched him deliberately look away and quicken his pace. 3 seconds of interaction and she'd been evaluated, categorized and dismissed. Story of her life these days. Marcus coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made Naomi's medical anxiety spike. She touched his forehead. Warm. Not feverish yet, but getting there. Mama, I'm sorry, Marcus whispered. Sorry for what, baby? For being sick. For making everything hard. Naomi felt something crack inside her chest. Her beautiful, brilliant 5-year-old son, who should have been worrying about kindergarten and playground politics, was apologizing for having asthma. For being a burden she could barely carry. Marcus Anthony Chen. She turned him to face her, cupping his small face in her cold hands. You listen to me. None of this is your fault. Not one single bit. You understand. But if I wasn't sick, we'd have more money for. No. Don't you ever think that. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You're the reason I keep going. It was the truest thing she'd said in months. Marcus nodded, but Naomi could see doubt in his 2 old eyes. Children shouldn't have eyes like that. Old and wary and resigned to disappointment. The temperature dropped as evening deepened into night. The market crowd thinned. Naomi's cup held exactly $3.47. Not enough for a motel room, barely enough for a meal at McDonald's. The shelter they'd been staying at had a 9 p.m. curfew, and it was already 8:30. The walk there took 45 minutes. They weren't going to make it. Naomi pulled Marcus closer, trying to transfer what little warmth her body still generated. His breathing was getting worse. Each inhale sounded like tearing paper. Mama. His voice was barely audible. I can't, it's hard to breathe. Terror crashed over Naomi in waves. She knew this progression. Mild wheeze to moderate distress to full respiratory crisis. They were at stage 2, sliding toward 3. She needed to get him to a hospital. No. Naomi struggled to her feet, pulling Marcus up with her. Her legs had gone numb from sitting on cold concrete. The world tilted dangerously. Come on, baby. We're going to walk. Where? To get you help. Harborview Medical Center was 12 blocks away. 12 blocks that might as well have been 12 miles with Marcus struggling to breathe and her own body running on fumes. But what choice did she have? They made it 3 blocks. Marcus's breathing deteriorated from labored to desperate. His lips were taking on a bluish tinge that made Naomi's medical knowledge scream warnings. Asphyxia. Oxygen deprivation. Brain damage if they didn't get help soon. Mama, I'm scared. Marcus's voice came out in a terrified wheeze. I know, baby. I know. Just hold on. But hold on to what? Hope. That had died somewhere around the 2nd month of living on the streets. Faith. That had abandoned her around the time the restraining order against James proved to be nothing more than paper against his rage. They were alone. Completely, devastatingly alone. Naomi sank down onto the steps of a closed storefront, Marcus in her arms, and felt the last of her strength give out. Around them the city moved on. Cars passed. People walked by. The world continued spinning for everyone else while hers came to a complete and final stop. Please, she whispered to no one in particular. To God if he was listening. To the universe if it cared. Please, somebody help us. And then, as if summoned by desperation itself, a car stopped. Not just any car. A black Mercedes SUV with tinted windows and the kind of quiet, predatory elegance that whispered power. It pulled up to the curb smoothly, precisely like it had been looking for this exact spot. The driver's door opened. And Naomi's world changed forever. The man who emerged from that Mercedes looked like he'd been carved from obsidian and rage. Tall, maybe 6'1", with the kind of build that came from disciplined violence, not gym selfies. His suit was dark and perfectly tailored, expensive enough that Naomi could tell even through her exhausted haze. Black hair styled with precision. Sharp jawline that could have cut glass. And eyes, God, those eyes, dark and intense and completely focused on her with a weight that made breathing difficult for reasons that had nothing to do with asthma. Korean. Definitely Korean. The bone structure, the way he moved with controlled economy, the expensive watch glinting at his wrist that she recognized from a life she used to live. Patek Philippe. $50,000 minimum. This was not a man who stopped for homeless women. But he was walking toward her anyway, followed by 2 other men in dark suits who flanked him at a careful distance. Security. Professional security. Danger, her instincts screamed. Everything about this man radiated controlled danger. But Marcus was dying in her arms, and danger was relative when your child couldn't breathe. The man stopped 3 feet away, studying them with an intensity that felt like being X-rayed. His gaze moved from Naomi's face to Marcus's blue-tinged lips to the empty inhaler clutched in her hand. How long has he been like this? His voice was deep, controlled, with the faintest trace of an accent that made certain consonants land with deliberate precision. Not, are you okay? Not, do you need help? Just straight to the critical question with the efficiency of someone accustomed to crisis. 20 minutes. Maybe more. Naomi's voice came out hoarse. His inhaler's empty. I can't afford, I don't have. He needs a hospital. Now. It wasn't a question. The man pulled out his phone, speaking rapid Korean into it. Medical terms. Naomi recognized some from her limited exposure to Korean culture through Marcus's pediatrician before they'd lost insurance. Respiratory distress. Pediatric. Emergency. He ended the call and looked at Naomi directly. I'm taking you to Harborview. Dr. Park will meet us there. I can't pay. I'm not asking you to. The words should have been relief. Instead they were terrifying. Because men who looked like this, who dressed like this, who commanded instant obedience with a phone call, they didn't help strangers out of kindness. They collected debts. But Marcus was dying. Okay, Naomi whispered. The man moved immediately, not touching her but gesturing toward the Mercedes. One of his security men opened the back door. The interior was warm, blessedly, impossibly warm, with leather seats and the kind of luxury that felt obscene after 4 months on the street. Naomi climbed in with Marcus, whose eyes had gone glassy and unfocused. Not good. Very not good. The man slid into the driver's seat. No driver, she noticed, which meant this was personal, not business. And the SUV pulled into traffic with smooth authority. What's his name? The question came without the man taking his eyes off the road. Marcus. Marcus Chen. He's 5. And you? Naomi. Naomi Chen. Chen. The man's voice carried a note she couldn't identify. Recognition. Curiosity. Korean. My ex-husband was. I kept the name for Marcus. The man nodded, navigating through Seattle traffic with the confidence of someone who owned the roads. Other cars seemed to sense his presence and move aside instinctively. I'm Kong Minjun, he said after a moment. The name meant nothing to Naomi. Should it? Thank you for stopping, Mr. Kong. Just Kong. Or Minjun if you prefer. He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. When did you last eat? The question caught her off guard. Marcus had some crackers earlier. At the shelter. Not Marcus. You. Naomi couldn't remember. Yesterday? The day before? Food was for Marcus. She ate whatever was left. Minjun made another call, this time in English. Have food brought to Harborview. Private room. Soup, sandwiches, fruit juice. Enough for 2 people. He was orchestrating her rescue with the efficiency of a military operation. It should have been comforting. Instead, it amplified Naomi's sense that she was falling into something she didn't understand. Why are you doing this? The question came out more desperate than she'd intended. Minjun was quiet for several seconds. When he spoke, his voice had lost its commanding edge, replaced by something rawer. I had a younger brother. He was 7 when he died from an asthma attack. Minjun's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I was 19. We were broke. His inhaler was empty. The emergency room was 45 minutes away. I held him while he suffocated and couldn't do a single fucking thing to save him. The profanity hung in the air like a confession. I'm sorry, Naomi whispered. Don't be sorry. Just let me help you. They pulled into Harborview's emergency entrance. Minjun was out of the car immediately, opening Naomi's door with one hand while speaking into his phone with the other. A small Korean man in a white coat was already waiting at the entrance. He took one look at Marcus and nodded to Minjun. Bring him. Minjun gestured for Naomi to follow Dr. Park. That must be who he was, while one of the security men parked the Mercedes. They moved through the emergency room with a speed that suggested Minjun's influence reached far beyond expensive cars and phones. Private examination room. Oxygen immediately. Nebulizer treatment. Steroids. Dr. Park moved with practiced efficiency, his hands gentle on Marcus's small body. You did the right thing bringing him in, Dr. Park said to Naomi in accented but perfect English. 10 more minutes and we'd be intubating him. 10 more minutes. Naomi's legs gave out. She found herself in a chair she didn't remember sitting in, watching Marcus's oxygen saturation slowly climb on the monitor. Minjun stood near the door, not hovering, just present. A silent sentinel ensuring nothing went wrong. He'll need to stay overnight for observation, Dr. Park said after 20 minutes of treatment. But he's stable now. You saved his life by getting him here when you did. Except she hadn't gotten him there. Minjun had. Naomi looked at the man who'd stopped his car for a homeless woman and her dying son, and realized she owed him something she could never repay. Her life. Marcus's life. Everything. Thank you, she whispered. Minjun's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind those dark eyes. You're welcome. Dr. Park left to arrange Marcus's admission. Minjun approached slowly, like she was a skittish animal that might bolt. The food should be here soon. You need to eat. I need to know what this costs. What I owe you. Nothing. Nobody helps for nothing. No, Minjun agreed. Nobody does. He pulled over a chair and sat, his movements controlled and deliberate. Up close, Naomi could see the scar bisecting his left eyebrow, the calluses on his knuckles, the way his expensive suit couldn't quite hide the violence coiled beneath it. So what do you want? Naomi demanded. What's the price? Minjun studied her with that unnerving intensity. Conversation. Over a meal. After Marcus is settled. That's it. For now. The qualifier hung between them like a promise and a threat. Naomi looked at her son, breathing steadily for the first time in hours, and made a decision that would change everything. Hey. We'll talk. Minjun's smile was slight but genuine. Good. And Naomi Chen, former nonprofit director, current homeless single mother, fell into the orbit of a man whose gravity would either save her or destroy her. Possibly both. The private hospital room was nicer than any apartment Naomi had lived in for the past 4 months. Window overlooking the city. Comfortable chair that converted into a bed. Television mounted on the wall. And most importantly, Marcus sleeping peacefully in a real bed with clean sheets, his breathing steady and strong thanks to the 4 steroids and constant oxygen monitoring. Dr. Park had been thorough. Blood work, chest x-ray, full respiratory assessment. He'd prescribed 3 different medications, handed Naomi 2 brand new inhalers without discussing cost, and promised to have a nebulizer delivered to wherever she was staying. Naomi hadn't corrected him about the wherever. What was she supposed to say? We're staying on the street, so maybe just make it portable? The food Minjun had ordered arrived an hour after Marcus was settled. Not hospital cafeteria food, but restaurant-quality Korean soup that smelled like comfort itself. Sandwiches from somewhere expensive, fresh fruit that probably cost more than her daily panhandling total. Minjun had disappeared to make phone calls. Naomi had watched him through the room's window, pacing the hallway with his phone pressed to his ear, his body language screaming authority. Whatever he was arranging, people jumped to obey. Now he returned, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that were scarred and muscular in equal measure. He'd brought coffee, real coffee, not the hospital sludge, and set a cup beside Naomi without asking if she wanted it. Eat, he said simply. Naomi wanted to refuse on principle. She'd spent 4 months accepting charity, and each time it made her feel smaller, more diminished. But her body betrayed her. Her hand reached for the soup before her pride could stop it. The first spoonful hit her stomach like a revelation. When had she last eaten something hot? Something that tasted like someone actually cared about flavor? Minjun watched her eat with that unnerving intensity, like he was cataloging every reaction. When she'd finished half the bowl, he finally spoke. Dr. Park did some basic blood work. You're severely anemic, dangerously undernourished, and showing signs of chronic stress. I'm aware. Are you? Minjun's voice sharpened. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who's been systematically destroying herself to keep her son alive. That's what mothers do. No. That's what mothers without options do. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. I'm offering you options. We've already established I can't pay you back. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Minjun was quiet for a moment, his dark eyes searching her face for something. Tell me what happened. How does a woman with an MBA from University of Washington end up homeless with a 5-year-old? Naomi went rigid. How do you know about my degree? I make it my business to know things. You had me investigated? In the past 3 hours. Yes. The brutal honesty should have terrified her. Instead, Naomi felt a strange respect for his directness. At least he wasn't pretending this was simple charity. Why? Because I don't help people blind. I need to understand who they are, what they're running from, what they're capable of. Minjun's voice was matter-of-fact. You're Naomi Chen. 29 years old. MBA from UW, graduated summa cum laude. 3 years as financial director for Pacific Northwest Community Foundation. Married James Chen at 24. Divorced at 27. Restraining order filed 6 months ago for domestic violence. He paused and his voice softened infinitesimally. Lost your job 4 months ago when you discovered your executive director was embezzling. You reported it. He had better connections. You were fired for cause, which meant no unemployment, no references, no way to get another job in the nonprofit sector. Naomi's vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. Hearing her destruction summarized so clinically made it somehow worse. Savings depleted after 2 months. Minjun continued relentlessly. Evicted after 3. Shelter system for a few weeks until Marcus got sick and you missed curfew too many times. Now you're on the street, dodging your violent ex-husband, and slowly dying while trying to keep your son alive. Stop. Why? Because the truth hurts. Because I'm living it. Naomi's voice cracked. I don't need you to recite my failures like a fucking Wikipedia entry. Minjun sat back and something in his expression shifted. Is that what you think this is? A recitation of failures? What else would you call it? I'd call it a demonstration of strength. His voice carried conviction that made Naomi look up. You discovered corruption and reported it knowing it would cost you. You left an abusive marriage despite having a young child. You've kept Marcus alive and relatively healthy despite impossible circumstances. Those aren't failures. Those are victories against a system designed to break people like you. Naomi stared at him. You sound like you've been there. I have. Different circumstances but the same helplessness. The same watching the world kick you down experience. Minjun's jaw tightened. I was 15 when my father died. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep me and Jiwoo fed. We were one emergency away from disaster at any given moment. What happened? Jiwoo's asthma attack. The emergency we couldn't survive. His voice went flat. After he died, my mother had a complete breakdown. Couldn't work. Couldn't function. We were going to lose everything. But you didn't. No. Because someone offered me a choice. Minjun looked at her directly. A man named Sung-hoon Kim found me trying to steal from his restaurant. He should have called the police. Instead he gave me a job. Taught me the business. All of it, the legitimate parts and the less legitimate parts. Understanding dawned. He was Korean Mafia. He was a businessman who understood that survival sometimes required flexibility. Minjun didn't flinch from the term. He showed me that power could be used for more than destruction. That organization and loyalty could build something lasting. And now I run the organization Sung-hoon built. We have legitimate businesses. Restaurants, import companies, real estate. We also have less legitimate operations that I won't detail because they would make you uncomfortable. His honesty was brutal. But everything we do serves a purpose. Protection for our community, opportunity for people the system ignores, and consequences for those who prey on the vulnerable. Naomi processed this. You're telling me you're a crime boss. I'm telling you I'm someone who operates outside systems that failed me, just like they failed you. And you want to help me. Why? Because you remind me of my mother. Because Marcus reminds me of Jiwoo. Because I have the power to change your situation and I choose to use it. Minjun pulled out a business card. Matte black with silver Korean characters. I own several properties in Seattle. Apartments I keep for strategic purposes. You and Marcus can stay in one. Rent-free until you're stable. I don't accept charity. Good. Because I'm not offering charity. I'm offering employment. Naomi's eyes narrowed. Doing what? My legitimate businesses need financial oversight. Someone who understands non-profit accounting, who can spot discrepancies, who isn't afraid to call out corruption. Minjun's smile was sharp. Someone exactly like you. You want me to work for the mob. I want you to work for my organization in a completely legal capacity, managing books for restaurants and community centers. Nothing illegal. Nothing that would compromise your ethics or put Marcus at risk. Sounded too good to be true. Which meant it probably was. What's the catch? The catch is that you'll be in my world. People will know you work for me, which brings certain protections but also certain assumptions. Your ex-husband, for instance, will think twice about coming after you once he understands you're under my protection. Naomi's breath caught. James. Does he know where I am? Not yet. But he's looking. Minjun's voice went cold. Your ex-husband currently does collection work for the Zhao family. Chinese organization involved in drugs and trafficking. He's been asking questions about you in shelters at the Pacific Northwest Foundation, anywhere you might surface. Terror spiked through Naomi. He'll kill me. When he finds me, he'll kill me. No. He won't. Minjun's certainty was absolute. Because I'm making you untouchable. You can't promise that. Yes. I can. Minjun leaned forward and Naomi saw the predator beneath the expensive suit. James Chen operates under Zhao protection. But the Zhao family operates in my city. If I make it clear that touching you means war with my organization, they'll cut him loose faster than you can imagine. You'd start a war over me? I'd prevent a war by making the cost of attacking you too high to contemplate. Minjun's voice softened. That's how protection works in my world. You make the threat so credible that violence becomes unnecessary. Naomi looked at Marcus, sleeping peacefully. Her beautiful son who deserved better than a mother constantly looking over her shoulder. Better than a life of fear and hunger. If I say yes, what happens? Tomorrow I have an apartment ready for you. Furnished, secure building in a good school district for Marcus. Monday you start work at Hansang Community Center. It's one of my legitimate operations. After-school programs, job training, ESL classes. Salary is $60,000 to start. Naomi's heart stopped. $60,000? You have an MBA. That's below market rate, honestly. But it comes with full health benefits including dental and vision. Marcus's medications are covered completely. It was too much. Everything she'd lost handed back to her by a man who admitted to being a criminal. Why? The question came out broken. Why would you do all this? Minjun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a vulnerability she hadn't heard before. Because 13 years ago I was a desperate kid who needed help and someone gave me a chance. Because Jiwoo died while I watched, powerless. Because I built an empire on the principle that power means nothing if you don't use it to protect people who can't protect themselves. He paused. Because when I saw you on that street corner holding Marcus like he was the only thing keeping you alive, something in me broke. Or maybe woke up. I'm still not sure which. Naomi stared at him. This beautiful, dangerous man with his controlled violence and unexpected kindness. I have conditions. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Marcus knows nothing about your less legitimate business. As far as he's concerned, you're just someone who helped us. Agreed. If I discover you're lying about the job being legal, I walk away. Agreed. Though I'll note that walking away from my world is complicated. You'll know things, see things. I can't let you leave without ensuring my organization's security. What does that mean? It means if you want out, I'll help you disappear properly. New identities, new city, financial support. But you can't just walk away knowing what you know. Should have been terrifying. Instead, Naomi found it almost comforting. Honesty about constraints was better than false promises of freedom. One more condition. Name it. James. I don't want him dead. I want him arrested properly. Legal consequences. Minjun's expression hardened. That's going to be difficult. The Zhao family has connections in the police department. Then uncomplicate it. You said you have power. Use it. For the first time, Minjun smiled. A real smile that transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. You're going to be trouble. Is that a yes? That's it. I'll make it happen. He stood, extending his hand. Do we have a deal, Naomi Chen? Naomi looked at his hand. Strong, scarred, capable of violence and gentleness in equal measure. Taking it meant stepping into a world she didn't understand, accepting help from a man who could destroy her as easily as save her. But it also meant Marcus could breathe, could go to a good school, could have a childhood instead of a survival trial. She took his hand. We have a deal. Minjun's grip was warm and firm. Welcome to the family. The word family hung between them, heavy with implications Naomi wasn't ready to examine. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Mr. Kong? Dr. Park wanted me to let you know that Marcus's overnight observation is approved. He's doing beautifully. Thank you. Minjun turned back to Naomi. I'll have someone bring you clothes and toiletries. Real ones, not hospital supply. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're mine to protect now. That means ensuring you have what you need. His use of mine sent an unexpected shiver through Naomi. Get some rest. I'll be back in the morning to help with discharge paperwork. Where are you going? To have a conversation with the Zhao family about respecting boundaries. Minjun's voice went cold. And to make sure James Chen understands that his hunting days are over. He left before Naomi could respond. She sat in the quiet hospital room, listening to Marcus breathe steadily, and realized she'd just made a deal with the devil. The devil in an expensive suit who looked at her son with genuine care. The devil who'd stopped his car when everyone else had driven past. The devil who might be the only thing standing between her and complete destruction. Naomi touched Marcus's sleeping face and whispered a prayer she wasn't sure anyone was listening to anymore. Please let me be doing the right thing. Outside the window, Seattle glittered with lights that promised warmth and safety. Promises the city had broken before. But for the first time in 4 months, Naomi felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Hope. Morning arrived with the kind of pale sunlight that made Seattle's perpetual gray seem almost beautiful. Naomi woke in the chair beside Marcus's bed. Someone had converted it into a surprisingly comfortable sleeper during the night, to find her son awake and smiling. Actually smiling. Mama, look. Marcus pointed to the breakfast tray a nurse had delivered. They have pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. The joy in his voice cracked something open in Naomi's chest. When had he last sounded like a normal 5-year-old? When had breakfast been something to celebrate instead of ration? That's wonderful, baby. A soft knock interrupted them. Minjun entered carrying 2 shopping bags from Nordstrom and a carrier with coffee that smelled like it cost more than Naomi used to make in a day. He looked different in daylight. Still dangerous, still controlled, but there was something softer around the edges. He'd changed into dark jeans and a black sweater that probably cost $1,000 but looked casual, approachable. Almost human. Good morning. His voice carried that same controlled warmth. Marcus, how are you feeling? Better. Marcus's enthusiasm was infectious. Dr. Park says I can go home today if I eat all my breakfast. Minjun glanced at Naomi and she saw the question in his eyes. Home. Marcus had no idea they didn't have one. That's excellent news, Minjun said smoothly. Your mama and I have been working on getting your room ready. Pie room. Marcus's eyes went wide. I get my own room? Of course. Where else would you sleep? The casual way Minjun said it, like having your own room was the most natural thing in the world instead of an impossible luxury, made Naomi's throat tight. Mr. Kong, she started, but he cut her off with a look. Minjun. We're past formalities. He set the shopping bags on the chair. Clothes for both of you. I had my assistant estimate sizes. If anything doesn't fit, we'll exchange it. Naomi looked inside the first bag. Real clothes. Quality clothes. Jeans that weren't threadbare. A sweater in deep burgundy that looked warm and soft. Undergarments still in packaging. Socks. Shoes. Actual sneakers with arch support. The second bag held clothes for Marcus. A hoodie with dinosaurs on it. Sturdy pants. New sneakers with lights in the heels. A warm jacket that would actually keep him dry. This is too much, Naomi whispered. It's practical. You can't start work Monday in clothes that have been slept in on the street. Minjun's tone was matter-of-fact, but his eyes held understanding. Consider it a uniform allowance. Uniform allowance doesn't usually include underwear. My uniform allowances are thorough. Despite everything, Naomi almost smiled. Dr. Park arrived with discharge paperwork and a pharmacy bag full of medications. He explained each one carefully to Naomi. Maintenance inhaler twice daily, rescue inhaler as needed, oral steroids to finish the course, nebulizer treatments if he got worse. The prescriptions are filled for 3 months, Dr. Park said. After that, Marcus should see a regular pediatric pulmonologist for long-term management. I've included a referral. I can't afford a specialist. It's covered under your new health insurance. Dr. Park glanced at Minjun. Everything is already arranged. Naomi felt the walls closing in. It was too much, too fast. She was being swept along by Minjun's efficiency before she could process what any of it meant. Can I speak with you? She asked Minjun quietly. Privately. Minjun nodded. They stepped into the hallway while Dr. Park helped Marcus get dressed in his new clothes. What's wrong? Minjun leaned against the wall, arms crossed, looking more like a model than a crime boss. This. All of this. Naomi gestured helplessly. 24 hours ago I was begging for change. Now I have clothes, health insurance, a job, an apartment. It doesn't make sense. Would you prefer I'd left you on that street corner? No. But I'd prefer to understand what's really happening here. Minjun studied her for a long moment. What do you think is happening? I think you're collecting something. People like you don't give without expecting return. You're right. His honesty was brutal as always. I am expecting return. I expect you to do your job well. I expect loyalty to my organization. I expect discretion about what you see and hear. That's all. No. Minjun pushed off the wall, moving closer. I also expect you to let Marcus be a child again. To eat properly. To stop looking over your shoulder every 30 seconds like someone's about to attack. I expect you to trust that when I say I'll protect you, I mean it. That's not fair. Why not? Because trust isn't something you can demand. It's earned. Then let me earn it. Minjun's voice softened. I'm not asking for blind faith, Naomi. I'm asking for a chance to prove I'm different from every other person who failed you. The sincerity in his voice made Naomi's defenses crack. Why do you care so much? I told you. You remind me. No. The real reason. Minjun was quiet for so long that Naomi thought he wouldn't answer. When he did, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because when I saw you holding Marcus in that storm of rain and exhaustion, something in me recognized something in you. Strength. The kind that doesn't break even when it should. The kind my mother had when she kept working after Jiwoo died. The kind that deserves protection, not exploitation. He met her eyes directly. Because I'm tired of watching strong people get destroyed by systems that don't care. Because I have the power to change that, at least for you. Because. He paused, jaw working like the next words cost him something. Because maybe if I can save you and Marcus, it makes up for not being able to save Jiwoo. The raw honesty stole Naomi's breath. That's not how it works, she said gently. Saving us doesn't bring him back. I know. But it's something. Minjun's smile was sad. And something is better than the nothing I've been living with for 13 years. Before Naomi could respond, Marcus appeared in the doorway wearing his new dinosaur hoodie, practically bouncing with excitement. Mama, look. The shoes light up when I walk. He demonstrated, stomping in place to make the heels flash red and blue. I see, baby. They're perfect. Dr. Park handed Naomi the discharge papers. He's all set. Follow up with the pulmonologist in 2 weeks. Call immediately if he has any respiratory distress. Thank you. For everything. Thank Minjun. I just did the medical part. Dr. Park smiled. He arranged everything else. They left the hospital in a procession that felt surreal. Minjun carried Marcus's pharmacy bag and discharge paperwork. One of his security men, Naomi had learned his name was Sung-ho, carried the shopping bags. And Naomi walked beside Marcus, who was chattering about Mickey Mouse pancakes and shoes that lit up and how maybe now he could go back to school. The Mercedes was waiting at the entrance. Marcus climbed in eagerly, immediately fascinated by the backseat entertainment system. Where are we going? Naomi asked as Minjun started the engine. Home. The word shouldn't have affected her so much. But after 4 months of having no home, no anchor, no safe place, it hit like a physical blow. The drive took 15 minutes. They wound through Seattle's neighborhoods, gradually climbing into areas Naomi recognized as expensive. Capitol Hill. Quiet streets lined with trees. Buildings with actual security and maintained landscaping. Minjun pulled into an underground garage beneath a modern 5-story building. Everything was clean, well-lit, secure. Key card access. Cameras. A level of safety Naomi had forgotten existed. 3rd floor, Minjun said, guiding them to an elevator. 2-bedroom, full bath, kitchen. Furnished. I had it cleaned and stocked yesterday. The elevator opened directly into a small hallway with only 2 doors. Minjun unlocked 3B. The apartment was beautiful. Not luxury penthouse beautiful, but real-life livable beautiful. Hardwood floors. Large windows with actual curtains. A living room with a comfortable couch and chair. A kitchen with full appliances and, Naomi checked, a refrigerator stocked with actual food. Marcus's room is here. Minjun opened the first door off the hallway. The room was perfect for a 5-year-old. Twin bed with blue bedding. Small desk and chair. Bookshelf with actual books. Toys, not many but quality ones. Dinosaur posters on the wall. Marcus made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. This is mine. All yours. Minjun crouched to his level. What do you think? I think it's the best room ever. Marcus threw his arms around Minjun's neck in an impulsive hug. Thank you, Mr. Minjun. Minjun froze for a second, clearly not expecting the gesture. Then his arms came up slowly to return the embrace. And Naomi saw his expression crack open with something that looked like pain and joy mixed together. You're welcome, Marcus. After Marcus ran off to explore his new room, Minjun showed Naomi the rest of the apartment. Her bedroom was simple but comfortable. Full-size bed with quality linens. Dresser. Closet with hangers. A small desk if she wanted to work at home. The bathroom had been stocked with toiletries. The kitchen had pots, pans, dishes, silverware. Everything they needed to actually live, not just survive. The building has security, Minjun explained. Key card access, cameras, on-site manager. No one gets in without clearance. You mean no one like James? I mean no one I don't approve. Minjun handed her a set of keys and a key card. But yes. Especially no one like James. Naomi took the keys with shaking hands. I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by showing up Monday morning ready to work. Minjun checked his phone. I need to handle some business. Sungho will stay nearby if you need anything. There's cash in the kitchen drawer. $500 for groceries, whatever Marcus needs. I can't accept. Naomi. Minjun's voice was gentle but firm. Your first paycheck isn't until the end of the month. You need to eat. Marcus needs things. Take the money. Consider it an advance against your salary if that makes it easier. He was right. Pride wouldn't feed Marcus. Hey. Thank you. Minjun paused at the door, his expression unreadable. One more thing. There's a phone on the kitchen counter. My number is programmed in. Day or night, if you need anything, you call me. Why? Because you're under my protection now. That means something in my world. What does it mean? Minjun's smile was sharp and dangerous. It means anyone who hurts you answers to me personally. And I'm not known for my mercy. He left before Naomi could process that declaration. She stood in her new apartment, her home, listening to Marcus play in his room and felt tears finally break free. For months of holding everything together, of being strong when she wanted to collapse, of making impossible choices with no good options. And now this. Safety. Warmth. A stranger who'd given her everything she'd lost. A stranger who looked at her son with genuine care. A stranger whose protection came with a price she didn't fully understand yet. Naomi walked to the kitchen window and looked out at Seattle's skyline. Somewhere out there James was searching for her. But for the first time in months she wasn't terrified. Because Minjun's promise hung in the air like a shield. Anyone who hurts you answers to me personally. It should have scared her. Instead, Naomi felt something dangerous and warm unfurl in her chest. Not just hope. Gratitude. Trust. And something else she wasn't ready to name. The weekend passed in a blur of normalcy that felt like a fever dream. Naomi and Marcus explored their neighborhood. Parks, grocery stores, a library where Marcus got his own library card and nearly exploded with joy. They bought groceries with the cash Minjun had left, Marcus carefully helping pick out cereal and fruit and chicken for dinner. Saturday night, Naomi cooked a real meal in a real kitchen for the first time in 4 months. Baked chicken, rice, steamed broccoli. Marcus ate until his stomach hurt, and Naomi had to resist the urge to let him have seconds just because she could. Minjun didn't appear, but his presence was everywhere. The secure building. The stocked kitchen. The phone that sat on the counter like a promise. Sunday morning, Naomi woke to a knock on the door. Through the peephole she saw a Korean woman in her 40s, professionally dressed, holding a clipboard. Ms. Chen? I'm Helen Park, Dr. Park's wife. Minjun asked me to help with your enrollment paperwork for Marcus's school. The efficiency was staggering. Within 2 hours, Helen had Marcus enrolled in Capitol Hill Elementary, rated one of the best in Seattle, with a start date of Monday. Immunization records were somehow already on file. Health forms completed. Asthma action plan submitted. How did you get all his records? Naomi asked, bewildered. Helen's smile was warm but knowing. Minjun is very thorough when he decides to help someone. That night, after Marcus was asleep, Naomi sat in her new living room and let herself process everything that had happened in 48 hours. From homeless to housed. From desperate to secure. From invisible to protected. It was too much. Too fast. But God help her, she wasn't going to refuse it. The phone rang, the new phone Minjun had provided. His number showed on the screen. Hello. Naomi. Minjun's voice was lower than usual, tired. I wanted to check that you and Marcus are settled. We are. Helen came by to help with school enrollment. That was incredibly helpful. Good. Pause. And you? How are you? The question caught her off guard. People asked about Marcus constantly. Nobody asked about her. Processing. All of this. That's fair. It's a lot. Another pause, longer this time. I wanted you to know. James has been handled. Naomi's heart stopped. What does that mean? It means I had a conversation with the Zhao family leadership. Made it clear that you and Marcus are under my personal protection. That touching you would be considered a declaration of war against my organization. And they agreed? They don't want war. The Zhao family makes money from drugs and trafficking. I control half the ports and warehouses in Seattle. War would cost them millions. Minjun's voice carried satisfaction. They've cut James loose. Revoked his protection. Made it clear he's on his own if he comes after you. That doesn't mean he'll stop. No. But it means he'll be alone when he tries. And I've made sure every shelter, every mutual friend, everyone in your old circles knows that you're off limits. Naomi felt something tight in her chest loosen infinitesimally. Thank you. There's more. Minjun's voice gentled. I also contacted your former employer, Pacific Northwest Community Foundation. Turns out several board members were uncomfortable with how you were fired. With some persuasion, they've agreed to issue a formal letter of apology and recommendation. You did what? You deserve to have your reputation restored. The letter confirms that you were fired for reporting legitimate concerns about embezzlement, that you acted ethically, and that you're eligible for rehire in the nonprofit sector if you choose. Naomi felt tears burn her eyes. Why would you do that? Because you earned it. Because your record shouldn't be destroyed by someone else's corruption. Pause. Because you might not want to work for me forever and you should have options. The thoughtfulness stole her breath. I don't know what to say. Say you'll get some sleep. Tomorrow is your first day. 7:30 pickup. Sung-ho will drive you and Marcus to school, then bring you to the community center. I can take the bus. No. Not yet. Not until I'm certain James understands the new reality. Minjun's voice firmed. Humor me on this. Please. Naomi found herself agreeing. 7:30. Good night, Naomi. Minjun. She stopped him before he could hang up. Thank you. For everything. You're welcome. The call ended and Naomi sat in the quiet apartment, feeling the weight of obligation and gratitude and something more complicated pressing down on her. She was safe. Marcus was safe. But she'd traded one form of dependence for another. The question was whether Minjun's protection would become its own prison. Monday morning arrived with Marcus's excitement reaching fever pitch. He'd picked out his clothes the night before. New pants, the dinosaur hoodie, light-up shoes. He'd packed his backpack with the school supplies Helen had provided. He'd even set an alarm for 6 a.m., something Naomi had never managed to get him to do voluntarily. Mama, I'm going to school. He bounced around the kitchen while Naomi made breakfast. Real school with other kids and a real teacher. Naomi's heart ached. For months ago, Marcus had been pulled from kindergarten when they lost their apartment. 4 months of his childhood stolen by her failures. But he was getting it back now. Sung-ho arrived exactly at 7:30, driving a dark sedan that was less conspicuous than Minjun's Mercedes but still obviously expensive. He was a solid man in his late 30s, with the kind of alert posture that spoke of military training. Morning, Miss Chen. Marcus. His English was accented but clear. Ready for your first day? Marcus nodded enthusiastically. The drive to Capitol Hill Elementary took 10 minutes. Sung-ho parked and waited while Naomi walked Marcus to the entrance, where a cheerful teacher greeted them. You must be Marcus. I'm Ms. Rodriguez, your kindergarten teacher. We're so excited to have you join us. Marcus looked up at Naomi with nervous excitement. Mama. You're going to do great, baby. She kissed his forehead. I'll pick you up at 3, okay? Okay. Marcus hugged her quickly then ran off with Ms. Rodriguez, already chattering about dinosaurs. Naomi watched him go, feeling something break and heal simultaneously in her chest. He'll be fine, Sung-ho said gently. Minjun arranged for the school to call you if there are any issues with his asthma. Of course he did. The Honsang Community Center was located in Seattle's Korean district, a beautiful modern building that managed to feel both professional and welcoming. Large windows. Bright colors. Children's artwork displayed in the lobby. Sung-ho led her to the administrative offices on the second floor. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and silver-streaked black hair greeted them. Naomi Chen. I'm Kim Sumi, the executive director. Welcome to Honsang. Her English was perfect with just the slightest Korean inflection. Minjun has told me wonderful things about you. He has. Oh yes. Your financial background, your integrity, your dedication. Sumi gestured for Naomi to follow her. We desperately need someone with your skills. Our bookkeeping has been adequate. But we need more than adequate. We need excellence. Sumi showed Naomi to a small but well-appointed office. Computer, phone, filing cabinets. Windows overlooking the street. You'll be managing finances for the community center and 3 of our associated businesses, Sumi explained. We run after-school programs, ESL classes, job training. We also have a restaurant downstairs, a small import company and a property management division. That's a lot for one person. You'll have support staff. And Minjun assured me you're more than capable. Sumi smiled warmly. He has excellent judgment about people. The first day was overwhelming. Sumi introduced Naomi to what felt like 100 people. Teachers, counselors, volunteers, business managers. Everyone was welcoming, professional, and clearly part of a tight-knit community. By lunchtime, Naomi's head was spinning with information. Sumi found her at her desk, surrounded by financial files. Kolme. Lunch break. You need to eat. The restaurant downstairs, Hansang Kitchen, was busy with the lunch crowd. Korean food that smelled incredible. Sumi ordered for both of them, explaining different dishes as they arrived. So, Sumi said once they were eating. How are you finding it so far? Honestly, overwhelming. But good overwhelming. Minjun mentioned you'd been through a difficult time. Naomi stiffened. What did he tell you? Only that you and your son needed a fresh start. That you're talented but have been dealing with circumstances beyond your control. Sumi's expression was compassionate. Many of us here have similar stories. That's why Hansang exists. To give people second chances. And Minjun funds all this? Minjun enables it. The community supports it. We serve over 200 families. Sumi leaned forward. I know what Minjun is. What his organization does. But I also know what he's built here. Real opportunities for real people. Doesn't it bother you? The less legitimate parts. Sumi considered this carefully. My husband was killed in a gang war 15 years ago. I was left with 3 children and no way to support them. The police did nothing. The social services were overwhelmed. I was desperate. She paused, memory darkening her eyes. Minjun was 19. Just starting in Sung-hoon Kim's organization. He found out about my situation and offered me a job managing this community center. No judgment. No demands. Just opportunity. Sumi smiled. He's not a saint. But he's not a demon either. He's a man trying to protect people the system ignores. The description felt painfully accurate. After lunch, Naomi dug into the financial records. Sumi was right. The bookkeeping was adequate but not excellent. Receipts were filed correctly but there was no real analysis. No budgeting strategy. No long-term financial planning. This was work Naomi understood. Numbers didn't lie. They didn't judge. They just were. She lost herself in spreadsheets and ledgers, building financial models that showed exactly where money was coming from and where it was going. It felt good to use her skills again. To be competent at something. Around 4 p.m. her office phone rang. Sumi's voice carried urgency. Naomi, there's someone here to see you. He says he's your husband. Naomi's blood turned to ice. My ex-husband. James. He's here. Building security stopped him in the lobby. He's demanding to see you and Marcus. Terror crashed over Naomi in waves. Where's Marcus? Still at school. Safe. Sung-ho is picking him up now per Minjun's instructions. Sumi's voice was steady. Should I call the police? The restraining order is active, but he'll claim he didn't know I worked here. Naomi's mind raced. Don't let him up. I'm calling Minjun. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands. Minjun answered on the first ring. Naomi. What's wrong? James is here. At the community center. Security has him in the lobby. I'm 10 minutes away. Don't go down there. Stay in your office with the door locked. He'll do nothing. Because I'm about to make him understand exactly what he's risked by coming here. Minjun's voice went cold. The voice of someone capable of extreme violence. Lock your door. Now. Naomi did, then stood at the window overlooking the street. 8 minutes later, Minjun's Mercedes pulled up with controlled aggression. He emerged with 3 men, Sung-ho plus 2 others she didn't recognize. They entered the building. Through her office door, Naomi heard raised voices. James's voice, loud and belligerent. Then Minjun's, quiet but carrying absolute authority. The conversation lasted maybe 5 minutes. Then silence. A knock on her door. Naomi. It's Minjun. She unlocked it with trembling hands. Minjun stepped inside, his expensive suit perfectly in place, his expression controlled. But Naomi saw fury burning beneath the surface. Is he gone? Yes. And he won't be back. How can you be sure? Because I explained the consequences of coming near you again. Minjun's jaw tightened. He's been formally expelled from the Zhao family. No protection. No connections. And I've made it clear that if he violates the restraining order again, he'll disappear permanently. You can't just. I can. And I will. Minjun moved closer, his voice softening. Are you okay? No. Yes. I don't know. Naomi sank into her desk chair. I thought I was safe here. You're safe. He was testing boundaries. Now he knows exactly where those boundaries are. Minjun crouched beside her chair, bringing himself to her eye level. Naomi, look at me. She did. His dark eyes were intense but gentle. James Chen will never touch you again. I promise you that. You can't promise. Yes. I can. Because he knows that hurting you means I hunt him personally. And I'm very, very good at hunting. The declaration should have terrified her. Instead, Naomi felt relief wash through her exhausted body. Thank you. Don't thank me for doing what should be done. Minjun stood. Sung-ho has Marcus at your apartment. I'm driving you home. I should finish. Sumi knows to expect you tomorrow. Tonight you go home, hold your son, and remember that you're safe now. Naomi nodded, too overwhelmed to argue. The drive home was quiet. Minjun's presence filled the car with controlled intensity. When they reached her building, he walked her to the elevator. Will you be okay tonight? Yes. I wasn't expecting to see him so soon. He won't try again. Minjun's certainty was absolute. But I'm posting security outside your building. Just for the next few weeks until everyone understands the new reality. That's excessive. That's protection. Minjun's voice firmed. And you're going to let me provide it without arguing. Understood. Naomi found herself nodding. At her apartment door, Minjun paused. Naomi. If you need me tonight, if you can't sleep, if you're scared, call. I don't care what time it is. Why are you doing all this? Because I told you I'd protect you. And I keep my word. He left before she could respond. Inside, Marcus was playing with toy dinosaurs, completely oblivious to what had happened. Sung-ho had clearly not mentioned James's appearance. Mama. School was amazing. We learned about shapes and I made a friend named Tommy and we had snack time with graham crackers. Naomi hugged him fiercely. That sounds wonderful, baby. That night, after Marcus was asleep, Naomi stood at her kitchen window and looked at the car parked across the street. Minjun's security. Silent sentinels ensuring James couldn't reach them. She should have been grateful. She was grateful. But she was also terrified of how much she was beginning to rely on Minjun's protection. How natural it felt to call him when she was scared. How his presence made her feel safe in a way nothing else did. Naomi Chen had spent 4 months learning to trust no one. Now she was learning to trust a man who admitted to being a criminal. And the scariest part? She was starting to trust him completely. The next 3 weeks fell into a rhythm that felt dangerously like normalcy. Naomi worked at Hansang Community Center, diving deep into financial systems that desperately needed organization. Marcus thrived at school, coming home every day with new stories about Tommy and shapes and art projects. Minjun kept his distance. He called every few days to check in, but he didn't visit. Didn't drop by unexpectedly. Gave Naomi space to adjust to her new life. She should have been relieved. Instead, she found herself disappointed when days passed without hearing from him. The financial records at Hansang revealed patterns that made Naomi's professional instincts flare. Nothing illegal. Minjun had been honest about that. But the money flows were strategic. Community center programs were funded through a complex web of legitimate businesses and private donations. Everything was documented properly, but the sources required careful navigation. 3 weeks in, Naomi was working late when Sumi knocked on her office door. Still here? It's past 7. I wanted to finish this budget analysis. Naomi gestured to her computer screen. The after-school program is hemorrhaging money on administrative costs. I think I can restructure to save about 30%. Sumi's eyes lit up. 30%? That's nearly $40,000 annually. Closer to 45 if we renegotiate the supply contracts. I have contacts from my nonprofit days who can. Naomi stopped. Actually, I don't know if I'm still persona non grata in that world. Try. The worst they can say is no. Sumi sat across from Naomi. You're good at this. Really good. Minjun was right about you. Does he talk about me? The question slipped out before Naomi could stop it. Sumi's knowing smile made her blush. He asks about you. How you're adjusting. Whether you need anything. If Marcus is happy. Sumi leaned forward conspiratorially. I've known Minjun for 15 years. I've never seen him this invested in someone's well-being. He's just being thorough. Making sure his investment pays off. Is that what you think this is? An investment? Naomi didn't know how to answer that. That night, driving home with Sung-ho, Naomi noticed they were being followed. A dark sedan keeping 2 car lengths back. Sung-ho noticed it too. His eyes tracked it in the rearview mirror with professional alertness. Don't worry, Ms. Chen. It's ours. What do you mean ours? Minjun's security. He has a team maintaining watch rotation. Making sure no one approaches you or Marcus. How long has this been going on? Since the first day. He didn't tell you. Naomi felt something complicated twist in her chest. Gratitude mixed with frustration mixed with something warmer she didn't want to name. When they reached her building, Sung-ho walked her to her door as always. Have a good evening, Ms. Chen. Sung-ho, can I ask you something? Of course. Why is Minjun doing all this? Really? Sung-ho considered carefully. Has he told you about Jiwoo? His brother. A little. Jiwoo died in Minjun's arms. He was helpless to save him. Sung-ho's expression softened. I've known Minjun since we were teenagers. In all that time I've never seen him let anyone close. He built walls so high nobody could reach him. And then he saw you with Marcus. And something in those walls cracked. Sung-ho smiled slightly. You remind him that protecting people is more important than protecting himself. Inside, Marcus was with the babysitter Minjun had arranged. A sweet college student named Sarah who came 3 evenings a week so Naomi could work late if needed. Mama. Sarah helped me with my homework and we made cookies. The normalcy of it, homework cookies a child's simple joy, made Naomi's throat tight. After Sarah left, after Marcus was in bed, Naomi found herself staring at her phone. Minjun's number was right there. She could call him. Thank him for the security she hadn't known about. Ask him why he was doing all this. Ask him why she couldn't stop thinking about him. The phone rang before she could decide. Minjun's name on the screen. Hello. Naomi. I hope I'm not calling too late. No. I was just thinking about calling you actually. Great minds. She could hear the smile in his voice. I wanted to let you know, James violated his parole conditions. He was arrested this morning. Naomi's breath caught. What? He made contact with an ex-girlfriend he was ordered to stay away from. Police arrested him. He's being held without bail pending trial. Minjun paused. You don't have to worry about him anymore. How did you? I didn't arrange it. He did it himself. I just made sure the right people were informed when it happened. Relief washed over Naomi so intensely it almost hurt. He's really going to jail? For a long time if the prosecutor I spoke with is accurate. Multiple parole violations, evidence of stalking ties to criminal organizations. Minjun's voice softened. You're free, Naomi. The words hit her like a physical blow. Free. When had she last been free? Not just from James, but from fear, from desperation, from the constant anxiety of survival. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You saved us. You gave us a life. Her voice cracked. You saw us when everyone else looked away. The silence on the other end stretched. Then Minjun's voice, lower and more vulnerable than she'd ever heard it. Can I see you? Not about business or security. Just, see you. Naomi's heart hammered. When? Tomorrow night? I could take you to dinner. Somewhere nice. Away from work and responsibilities. Like a date. Like whatever you want it to be. Naomi should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries between employer and employee, between protector and protected. Should have remembered that Minjun lived in a world of violence she barely understood. Yes, she said instead. I'd like that. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something comfortable. After they hung up, Naomi stood in her quiet apartment and tried to process what had just happened. Minjun had asked her on a date. And she'd said yes. To a man who'd saved her life. Protected her son. Given her everything she'd lost. A man who was dangerous and gentle in equal measure. A man whose touch she'd been dreaming about more than she wanted to admit. Naomi Chen was falling for the Korean Mafia boss who'd knelt down on a rainy street and said, "Come home with me." And God help her, she wasn't sure she wanted to stop. Minjun arrived at exactly 7 the next evening, and Naomi felt her breath catch when she opened the door. He'd shed the business armor. No suit, no tie. Just dark jeans, a charcoal sweater that hugged his lean frame, and a leather jacket that made him look less like a crime boss and more like a model who'd wandered off a photo shoot. Devastating. That was the word for him. "Hi," she managed. "Hi." Minjun's eyes tracked over her. She'd worn dark jeans and a soft green sweater, simple but flattering, and his smile was appreciative. "You look beautiful. You clean up pretty well yourself." "I try." He glanced past her. "Marcus. With Sarah. She's staying until we get back." Minjun had arranged that too. Of course he had. The Mercedes was waiting downstairs. Different from his usual SUV, this was a sleek sedan that screamed expensive without being ostentatious. Minjun opened her door and Naomi felt absurdly like Cinderella climbing into a pumpkin carriage. "Where are we going?" she asked as he pulled into traffic. "You'll see." They drove north, leaving the city behind. The conversation was easy, natural. Minjun asked about Marcus's adjustment to school. Naomi asked about the community center. They talked about Seattle, about music, about everything and nothing. 40 minutes later, Minjun pulled off onto a small road that wound up into the hills. At the top sat a small Korean restaurant with a view that overlooked the entire city. "Sukjang," Minjun said. "Best Korean food in Washington. Also happens to be owned by my mother's cousin." Inside, the restaurant was intimate and warm. Traditional Korean decor mixed with modern elegance. The owner greeted Minjun in rapid Korean, hugging him with obvious affection, then turned to Naomi with curious but welcoming eyes. "This must be the Naomi I've heard so much about. I'm Mrs. Han. Welcome, welcome." They were led to a private room. Traditional low table, cushions to sit on, sliding doors that offered both intimacy and a stunning view of the city lights below. "You've heard about me?" Naomi asked once they were alone. Minjun had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have mentioned you to my family." "What did you say?" "That I met someone remarkable. Someone who made me remember why I built all this in the first place." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Mrs. Han returned with dishes that kept coming. Banchan side dishes, japchae noodles, bulgogi beef, kimchi jjigae stew, Pajeon seafood pancakes. Each dish was explained with love and pride. "This is incredible," Naomi said after the first few bites. "I've never had Korean food this authentic. My mother used to cook like this." Minjun's expression grew distant. "She'd spend hours making these elaborate meals, trying to keep our traditions alive even when we could barely afford groceries." "She sounds amazing." "She was. Is." Minjun corrected himself. "She lives in Portland now. Remarried. Finally found happiness after my father died." "Do you see her often?" "Not as often as I should. She worries about me. About what I've become." His voice carried pain. "She wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. Something respectable. Instead you became someone who saves homeless women and their sons." Minjun looked at her directly. "Is that what you think I am?" "I think you're complicated. Dangerous and kind. Ruthless and gentle. You scare me and make me feel safe at the same time." "That's a pretty accurate assessment." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The food was incredible, but Naomi found herself more focused on Minjun. The way he moved with unconscious grace, the way his eyes softened when he talked about his mother, the way he seemed more relaxed here than she'd ever seen him. "Can I ask you something?" Naomi ventured. "About your organization?" "You can ask anything." "Is it as dangerous as I imagine?" Minjun considered carefully. "Honestly, it can be. There are rival organizations. Federal investigations. Violence happens. But I've built systems to minimize risk. We're more business than gang these days. Import-export, real estate, restaurants. Legal with flexible interpretations of certain regulations. That's a diplomatic way of saying money laundering. Among other things. He didn't flinch from the truth. But we don't deal drugs. We don't traffic people. Those are hard lines I won't cross. Because of what they did to your community. Because of what they do to everyone. Drugs destroyed my father. He died in a car accident while high on meth. Trafficking is slavery with better PR. I won't profit from that misery. The conviction in his voice made Naomi's chest ache. So you're a criminal with ethics. I prefer businessman with selective morality. Minjun smiled slightly. Does it bother you? What I am? Naomi thought about that carefully. Everything logical says I should be terrified of you. But I'm not. Why not? Because you stopped your car in the rain. Because you carried Marcus into that hospital without hesitation. Because you gave us safety and dignity when we had nothing. She met his eyes directly. Because I've met respectable men who hurt me worse than you ever could. Something shifted in Minjun's expression. James. James was a social worker. College educated. Volunteered at homeless shelters. Everyone thought he was this great guy. Naomi's voice went bitter. Behind closed doors he was a monster. He'd hit me and then cry about his childhood trauma. He'd threaten Marcus and then buy him toys to make up for it. How long did it last? 2 years too long. I finally left when he broke my ribs and I couldn't hide it anymore. Filed for divorce, got the restraining order, thought I was free. She laughed without humor. Then I lost my job. Lost my apartment. Ended up on the street with a 5-year-old while my respectable ex-husband did collections for a gang. Minjun reached across the table, covering her hand with his. The touch was warm, solid, grounding. You're not on the street anymore. No. I'm in the orbit of a different dangerous man. Am I dangerous to you? Naomi looked at their joined hands. Yes. But not in the way James was. How then? You make me feel things I promised myself I'd never feel again. Trust. Dependence. Hope. She met his eyes. Something that might become more than gratitude if I let it. Minjun's thumb traced circles on her palm. Would it be so terrible? Letting it become more? I don't know. You saved me. Protected me. How do I separate that from actual feelings? How do I know I'm not just trauma bonded to my rescuer? You don't. Minjun's honesty was brutal and refreshing. Neither do I. I don't know if what I feel is genuine or just some fucked up attempt to save Jiwoo through saving you. But does it matter? Of course it matters. Does it? He leaned forward. What I know is that I think about you constantly. That I rearrange my entire schedule just to have excuses to call you. That when I saw James at the community center, I wanted to kill him with my bare hands for scaring you. His voice dropped lower. That when you smile at me like you actually see me, not the crime boss or the protector but me, I feel more human than I have in 13 years. Naomi's breath caught. Minjun. I'm not asking you to decide anything tonight. I'm just telling you the truth. His hand tightened on hers. You're not an obligation. You're not a project. You're someone who makes me want to be better than what I've become. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Mrs. Han chose that moment to return with dessert, sweet rice cakes and cinnamon tea. She took one look at their joined hands and knowing expressions, smiled knowingly and retreated quickly. Your family's cousin thinks we're together, Naomi said. Would that be so bad? It would be complicated. I specialize in complicated. Minjun smiled. And for what it's worth, you're the least complicated thing in my life. Everything about you is clear. You want safety for Marcus. You want to rebuild your life. You want to be seen as more than a victim. And what do you want? You. The word was simple, devastating. I want you to look at me the way you did that first night in the hospital. Like I was dangerous but worth the risk. I want to take you to dinner and hear about your day. I want Marcus to call me Uncle Minjun without it feeling like obligation. I want. He stopped, jaw working. What? Naomi prompted. I want you to be mine. And I want to be yours. Completely. Honestly. With all the complications that entails. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. I'm scared. Of me. Of this. Of needing you. Of what happens if I let myself feel everything I'm starting to feel and then you realize I'm not worth it. Min-jun stood abruptly, moving around the table to kneel beside her. He cupped her face gently, forcing her to meet his eyes. Listen to me, Naomi Chen. You're worth everything. Worth protecting. Worth caring for. Worth building a life around. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. And I'm not James. I'm not going to hurt you and then apologize. I'm not going to make promises I can't keep. What I am going to do is prove to you every single day that trusting me was the right choice. How can you promise that? Because I've never wanted anything the way I want this. Want you. And then he kissed her. He was gentle at first, tentative, asking permission. But when Naomi's hands came up to clutch his sweater, pulling him closer, the kiss deepened. Min-jun's control cracked and Naomi tasted desperation beneath the gentleness. Like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally had permission to feel. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-jun rested his forehead against hers. Tell me I'm not alone in this, he whispered. You're not alone. Naomi's voice was shaky but certain. I feel it too. All of it. So where does that leave us? Naomi kissed him again, shorter, sweeter. I don't know. But I'd like to find out. Min-jun's smile was brilliant and genuine. That's all I'm asking. They finished dinner slowly, hands finding each other across the table. Talking about everything. Marcus's love of dinosaurs, Min-jun's passion for classical music, Naomi's abandoned dreams of getting her PhD in public administration. Why abandoned? Min-jun asked. Life got complicated. Marriage, baby, job. Dreams kind of fell away. Maybe it's time to pick them back up. I'm 29 with a 5-year-old and a full-time job. And you're brilliant and capable and deserve to chase your dreams. Min-jun's voice was firm. If you want to go back to school, we'll make it work. Adjusted schedule, childcare, tuition, whatever you need. You can't just. Yes, I can. Because investing in you is investing in Marcus's future. And I'm very motivated to invest in both of you. The ride back to Seattle was quieter. Naomi felt something fundamental had shifted between them. They'd crossed from protector/protected into something more complicated and real. At her building, Min-jun walked her to her door. Under the hallway lights, he looked younger, more vulnerable. Thank you for tonight, Naomi said. It was perfect. It was overdue. He hesitated. Can I see you again? Properly. Not work-related. Yes. Naomi surprised herself with how much she wanted that. Min-jun kissed her goodnight, soft and lingering, full of promises neither of them was quite ready to voice yet. After he left, Naomi stood in her apartment and touched her lips, still tingling. She'd fallen for the dangerous man who'd saved her. And God help her, it felt right. 2 months later, Naomi Chen stood in Min-jun's penthouse apartment, the real one, not the safe house he'd initially taken her to, and watched Seattle's skyline transform under dawn's early light. The past 8 weeks had been a revelation. Min-jun had courted her with a patience that spoke of someone who understood trauma, who knew that trust was built in small moments. Dinners at quiet restaurants. Walks through Pike Place Market with Marcus between them. Movie nights where Marcus would fall asleep on the couch and Min-jun would carry him to bed with practiced gentleness. He'd never pushed. Never demanded. Just waited. Let Naomi come to him at her own pace. Tonight was different. Tonight, Marcus was at a sleepover with his friend Tommy. His first sleepover, a milestone that had made Naomi almost cry with gratitude that her son could have normal childhood experiences again. And tonight Min-jun had invited her to his actual home. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist Korean-inspired decor, expensive art that somehow felt personal rather than pretentious. It was the home of someone who'd built an empire but never forgotten where he came from. You're up early, Min-jun's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him in the kitchen, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that somehow made him more attractive than his expensive suits. Couldn't sleep. Naomi moved to join him. This place is incredible. You haven't seen it in daylight yet. He handed her a cup of coffee exactly how she liked it. What's keeping you awake? Thinking. About how much has changed in 3 months. How different my life is now. Naomi sipped her coffee. How terrifying it is that I'm this happy. Min-jun's expression softened. Why terrifying? Because happiness can be taken away. James taught me that. Life taught me that. Not this happiness. Minjun moved closer, not touching but present. Because it's not built on illusions. It's built on you being strong enough to survive hell. On Marcus thriving. On us choosing each other every single day. Is that what we're doing? Choosing each other. That's what I'm doing. Every day. His voice dropped lower. The question is whether you're ready to choose me back. Naomi set down her coffee. I'm scared. Of me. Of losing this. Of something happening to you because of what you do. Of Marcus getting attached and then. Then what? I disappear. Minjun's jaw tightened. Naomi, I'm not going anywhere. Do I have a dangerous job? Yes. Could something happen? Theoretically. But I've survived 13 years in this world because I'm careful, strategic, and surrounded by people who die for me. That's not comforting. It should be. Because I'd do anything, to come home to you and Marcus every night. He finally touched her, hands cupping her face gently. You're not a phase. You're not a project. You're the reason I started questioning whether there's more to life than survival and empire building. What did you decide? That there is. And it looks like you. Naomi felt tears sting her eyes. I love you. I think I've loved you since you knelt down on that street corner and offered me hope. And that terrifies me. Why? Because the last time I loved someone he nearly destroyed me. I'm not him. Minjun's voice was fierce. I will never be him. I will never hurt you, never make you small, never make you feel like surviving is a burden. You want to know what I see when I look at you. What? Strength. Intelligence. Beauty that has nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with spirit. The kind of woman who kept her son alive through impossible circumstances. The kind of woman who rebuilt her career in 8 weeks. The kind of woman who makes me want to be better than everything I've become. His thumb brushed away her tears. I love you, Naomi. I love Marcus. I love the life we're building together. And I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. What are you saying? Minjun pulled back, pulling a small box from his pocket. Naomi's heart stopped. I'm saying I want this to be real. Permanent. I want Marcus to be my son. Legally, if you'll let me adopt him. I want you to be my wife. I want to build a family with you that's nothing like the violence I came from and everything like the love you've shown me. He opened the box. The ring was stunning. A deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds. Not traditional but perfect. Marry me, Naomi. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that stopping my car that night was the best decision I ever made. Naomi stared at the ring, at Minjun's face, at the future he was offering. Every rational instinct screamed caution. 3 months wasn't long enough. His world was dangerous. She was still healing from James. But her heart, her battered, rebuilt heart, knew the truth. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Minjun's smile was incandescent. He slid the ring onto her finger. Perfect fit because of course he'd been thorough. Then kissed her with an intensity that stole her breath. You're sure? He asked against her lips. Terrified. But sure. I can live with terrified. I'll just have to make sure I give you reasons to be less terrified every day. They spent the morning wrapped in each other, talking about futures and families and all the complicated logistics of merging their lives. Minjun had already thought through everything. Marcus's adoption, their wedding, how to handle explaining his business to a curious 5-year-old as he got older. What do we tell people? Naomi asked. About how we met. The truth. I stopped. I helped. You accepted. Minjun smiled. It's romantic if you leave out the desperation and crime elements. So we gloss over the Korean Mafia part? We prefer import-export businessman with community involvement. Naomi laughed and it felt good. Like maybe happiness wasn't something that would be ripped away the moment she relaxed. That afternoon they picked up Marcus from his sleepover. The little boy was bouncing with excitement about his adventures with Tommy when he noticed the ring on Naomi's finger. Mama, that's pretty. Is it new? Naomi glanced at Minjun, who nodded encouragingly. Marcus, baby, can we talk to you about something important? They sat on the couch in their apartment, their home, and Naomi took her son's small hands. You know how Minjun has been spending a lot of time with us? Yeah. He's my friend. He teaches me Korean words and takes us for ice cream. Well, Minjun and I have been talking. And we love each other very much. And we want to be a family. A real family. Marcus's eyes went wide. Like with you and Minjun married? Exactly like that. How would you feel about that? Marcus thought about this with the seriousness only a 5-year-old could muster. Then he turned to Minjun. If you marry Mama, does that mean you'll be my dad? Minjun crouched down to Marcus's level. Only if you want me to be. I would be honored to be your dad, Marcus. But it's your choice. Would you leave like my other dad did? The question broke Naomi's heart. But Minjun answered with absolute conviction. Never. I will be here for you every single day. For homework and soccer games and when you're sick and when you're in trouble. That's a promise. And I keep my promises. Marcus studied Minjun's face for a long moment. Then he threw his small arms around Minjun's neck. Hey, you can be my dad. Minjun's arms came around Marcus carefully, and Naomi saw tears tracking down his face. The first time she'd ever seen him cry. Thank you, Minjun whispered. Thank you for trusting me. That night, after Marcus was asleep in his room, Naomi and Minjun sat on the couch, wrapped around each other. I can't believe this is my life now, Naomi said. 3 months ago I was homeless and hopeless. Now I'm engaged to a man I love with a secure job and a son who's thriving. 3 months ago I was going through the motions, building an empire without understanding why. Now I have a reason. Minjun kissed her temple. You and Marcus are my reason. What about your organization? Your responsibilities? I'm transitioning more operations to legitimate businesses. Sung-ho can handle the gray areas. I want to be present for Marcus. For you. To actually have a life instead of just surviving. You do that? Step back from everything you've built. I'd burn it all down if it meant keeping you safe. Minjun's voice was fierce. But I don't have to. I can build something better. A hybrid organization. Protection for our community, opportunity for people like you who fell through society's cracks, but without the violence I grew up with. That's ambitious. I'm an ambitious man. Especially when properly motivated. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights through the window. Naomi thought about the journey that had brought her here. The failures, the fear, the desperate moments when survival seemed impossible. And then Minjun. Dangerous, gentle, complicated Minjun who'd stopped his car in the rain and changed everything. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For seeing me. For stopping. For giving us a chance at this life. Thank you for trusting me with it. Minjun pulled her closer. For taking the biggest risk of your life and letting me prove I was worth it. 4 months later, they married in a small ceremony at Honsang Community Center, surrounded by the people who'd become their family. Marcus served as ring bearer, taking his duties with adorable seriousness. Sumi cried. Sung-ho gave a toast about Minjun finally finding someone who made him human again. Minjun's mother flew up from Portland, and Naomi watched her hug her son with fierce pride and whispered Korean blessings. When they exchanged vows, Minjun's voice was steady but his eyes were bright. I promise to protect you, support you and love you exactly as you are. I promise to be the father Marcus deserves. I promise that every day, I'll work to be worthy of the trust you've given me. Naomi's vows were simpler but no less profound. I promise to trust you with my heart. To build this life with you. To remind you every day that you're more than what you came from. You're the man who stopped in the rain and saved us both. That night, in the penthouse that was now their home, with Marcus asleep in his new room down the hall, Naomi and Minjun stood at the windows overlooking Seattle. Any regrets? Minjun asked, arms around her waist. Not even one. Even though I'm dangerous? Especially because you're dangerous. You're dangerous to anyone who threatens our family. And that makes me feel safer than any restraining order ever did. Minjun laughed, the sound full and genuine. I love you, Mrs. Kong. I love you too. Naomi turned in his arms. Thank you for kneeling down on that street corner. For seeing us when everyone else looked away. Thank you for saying yes. For giving me a reason to be more than what I was. They kissed as the city sparkled below them. A city full of broken people and second chances, of danger and hope in equal measure. Somewhere in Seattle, another woman was struggling. Another child needed help. The systems that had failed Naomi were still failing others. But tonight Naomi Chen, no Naomi Kong was safe. home. And tomorrow she and Minjun would work to make sure more people got the second chances they'd been given. Because that was what family did. That was what love meant. And that was the life they'd chosen to build together. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.